Well, Elizabeth, welcome to the 20 something podcast.
So I'm Elizabeth Cheney. I'm the host of the In Between podcast. Most of my 20s was chasing, I want to say not chasing, it was following other people. It was comparing myself. It was me trying to make my life look like other people's. Even if you're lost, even if you're confused, even if you have no idea where you want to go in life, that's okay. Because honestly, I think that's where you need to be in your 20s.
Well, Elizabeth, welcome to the 20 something podcast. Thank you so much for being here.
Hi, Grace.
Why don't you tell everybody who you are, what you do, give your little spiel, and then we'll work it back and go from there.
I love that. And I'm so glad we're finally doing this. It only took how many months for me to get my life together?
That's okay.
Oh gosh. Okay. So I'm Elizabeth Cheney. I'm the host of the In Between podcast, which is all about navigating life's in-betweens, which really just gives me full range to talk about whatever I want. But it's mostly a focus on self-love and all the in-between life moments with a little bit of my theater kid zhuzh, if you know what I mean. So it's very entertaining and empowering. That's what I like to say.
I love it. Now, is that what you do full time, or what do you do full time?
Oh, I wish. This is this is the side hustle that I will one day hopefully be my main thing. Not necessarily the podcast, but because I really want to get into speaking, and that's one thing that I'm going to work on this year. But
cool.
I want to be do you know who Glennon Doyle is? She's married to Abby Wambach. She wrote the book Untamed. Anyways,
I've heard of the book.
So you've heard of Untamed. That book, I consider that this might be inappropriate to say, but I call that my Bible because it's just so beautiful and all about what does it mean to live and loving yourself through the process kind of thing. But that's kind of like the vibe that I want in my career. But no, I work in communications for a healthcare company.
Okay. Yeah. Cool.
Very
so
different.
what made you decide to start a podcast?
Ooh, I love this question. So how this all started, before it was the podcast, I asked myself, this was back in 2017, right before my major car accident and all this life shit that happened. But I was asking myself, what is my dream career? What is my dream job? And because I'd never asked myself that. We're so used to the 9 to 5 or the societal structure and path that we all mostly take. And I was just asking myself, what is my dream career? And I was thinking about it, and I was like, to be a speaker, to be a TV host. And I was like, I don't know about TV host. And at the time I was obsessed. I mean, I still am, but with TED Talks. And I was like, how do you become a TED Talker? And that was really the inspiration behind creating my dream job. And at the time I was like, I'm going to help teach people how to make a lot of money and figure out how do you get from, A to B, et cetera, et cetera. And then that just started to grow and evolve with more books as I was reading to I think I want to do something bigger than just money. I think it's about loving yourself. I think I want to do a podcast. And then I got in a major car accident and that basically busted me up. I was very depressed and very messed up, a lot of pain, and we couldn't figure out what was going on. And it took 2 years to figure out that I had serious nerve damage, and that's why it was causing my shoulder, all the issues. And then COVID hit. So I basically was just a big fat sandwich of depression and just life crap. And then getting out of that depression into 2021, beginning of 2022, that's when I really started to come out of the hole. And I realized why self-love is so important, because that's what got me out of my hole in a way. That with therapy. Big fan of therapy.
We love therapy here.
We love therapy. Big therapy girl over here. Big therapy girl. Very open about it too. But after 2022, that's when I finally launched the podcast. So it took me about 5 years to go through all my life crap to finally launch it. And here we are.
So the in-between, you said it gives you free reign to talk about whatever, but how did you decide it's going to be called the in-between? Is there any meaning behind that? Is there a story behind that? Or is it just oh, it sounds good?
There's not a huge story. I will say this. So I'm in the middle of, not really in the middle, I'm just now getting divorced. And my soon-to-be ex-husband actually came up with the name. We're still friends. Everything's cool. But I was from A to B, how to get from A to B, that's not really rolling off the tongue very well. How do I do this? I want to help people get from whatever their A is to B. That's how it all started. And so he would ask me questions, and I was like, it's life stuff. I don't know. I want to talk about everything because I like pop culture as well. I like weird stuff. I like whatever stuff. And he was like, what about the in-between? In between. And I was like, Oh
Mm,
my God, I think that's genius. And then it
yeah.
just stuck. So here we are.
Yeah. I love that name because it does pertain to everything. And
Yeah.
I feel like in correlation to like 20s, all of the 20s just feels like an in between. Like we're just like lost
Girl.
in space right now.
Oh yeah, big time. I was definitely lost in space for my 20s.
Yeah.
Um, Definitely so. So that's kind of like the idea is like life's in between. So even though it talks about everything, the idea is like I want you to find a place here. Like I hope you can like feel seen, or even if it's not your exact life experience, it's still something that you can relate to in some way,
Right.
or just the authenticity and candidacy.
Hmm.
But your 20s, yes. I like to call your 20s, I like to call like I'm some like professional, but I call it your second puberty.
Okay. Interesting.
Um,
Explain.
because we are all figuring out who the heck we are.
Yeah.
We're all comparing ourselves to everyone. We're adults, I put that in quotes, but we really don't have as much life experience to really
Yeah.
be a robust adult. And that is not to say that I know there are people who have been through some shit, and unfortunately so. But for the masses of us, mostly, yes, we've had hard things happen, but like the life stuff, like, no, no. You're still
Hmm.
figuring things out. You're still getting responsibility. You're still learning who you are.
Yeah.
Um, and the big thing, I think, is the comparing yourself to everyone.
Oh
I mean,
yeah.
I did that. It's really, I mean, how can you not? Especially with the
Hmm.
social media, right? Like you're always seeing people's highlight reels. You're always seeing what they're doing, and it is like in a way in your face, like what you're not doing. And I do
Yeah.
feel like I'm about to sound so old. I'm only 33, so I'm not even that old, but it is the life experience and these lessons that you learn in your 20s that help you overcome that, if that makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah.
Um, your 30s are great. I've been told that your 40s are even better. And I imagine as you keep going, it's going to be like that in a
Right.
way.
Yeah.
But with the comparing yourself to everyone, there's so many things you're not even thinking about. You're not thinking
Hmm.
about their family dynamic. You know what? I just got a thumbs up. You don't realize that their dad owns a company. And that's why they have that super awesome job right out of college, making stupid money. And you're like, why do I suck? You don't
Yeah.
suck. You just don't have a family business. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? Um, you're comparing yourself to this really happy couple, but then behind the scenes, like they have a very toxic relationship. She's lost herself completely. He's lost himself completely, whatever the situation.
Hmm.
There's so much subtext. There's so much behind the scenes that you don't know. And you're
Hmm.
not going to know until years later, life
Hmm.
experience later. And then you start realizing, oh. And that's not to say that, sure, you don't deserve the job. Your dad worked hard, built that company, and you're working hard, whatever. But that doesn't mean you are less because you're
Right.
not in that position.
Yeah. 100%.
So
Yeah.
it's learning who you are. And most of my 20s was chasing, like, I want to say not chasing, it was following other people. It was comparing myself. It was me trying to make my life look like other people's. Because
Hmm.
I mean, I came from a more poor background, a single mom, and I felt like I got kind of blasted with life when I went to college. Like, oh, wow. So I was living in a bubble. Got it. Great. Okay. That's great. And so I felt this pressure to like compete, and not even compete because I didn't think of it as compete, but it was like, oh my gosh, I'm behind if I'm not there, if I'm not doing this,
Hmm.
if I'm not buying these kind of things, if I'm not doing this kind of job or making this kind of money. And that is so
Hmm.
toxic. And
Hmm.
it took me honestly till my depression, to like my into my 20s to really get out of that.
Hmm.
Um, and some people they figure it out a lot sooner, and that's great.
Hmm.
But I can say as somebody who knew who they were, but I can honestly say now, no, I know who I am. I was a version of me then, but I am like a super version of me now.
Yeah.
Even if you're lost, even if you're confused, even if you have no idea where you want to go in life, that's
Hmm.
okay. Because
Hmm.
honestly, I think that's where you need to be in your 20s. Like
Hmm.
if I could go back and do it, I would just live. I would
Yeah.
live. I would try everything I possibly could.
Yeah.
Now that's not to say that if you do something, you're like, oh my gosh, I love this. I don't like have to go necessarily try different things, but
Yeah.
your 20s are about experimenting in a way, in every
Hmm.
way you can think of. And we'll
Hmm.
keep it like the good things you can think of for the
Right.
episode, but we're all just lost people. We're all at different stages. And that's why I call it a puberty, because puberty, what? We were all raging hormones, confused. What's happening? My body's changing. I don't know so much about
Yeah.
that per se with your 20s,
Yeah.
but I mean, think about it. Like I remember in my 20s, like when I was 24, 25, there were people that were getting divorced. There were people that were having babies. There were people who were
Yeah.
drug addicts. There were people who were partying. There were influencers. Like there's all levels of kinds of people.
Hmm.
And it's just crazy to think about how much I try to compare myself to others and try to think, oh, I had to follow this path. Because now I'm
Yeah.
like, no, I like the void. I like the
Yeah.
unknown. I like jumping into the abyss.
Mm.
Um, and I think the sooner you can be comfortable with that, your 20s are going to be even better.
Yeah, for sure. And it creates such a resiliency too. Like I've always been a very chronic planner, and it's so
Hmm.
funny to watch my life unfold at this age now. I'm about to be 25, and I remember when I was like 16, I was like, okay, by 25, I'll be married and having kids and have
I
the
know.
job. And I'm like, I'm so happy I don't have any of that stuff. And like my two best friends are getting married this year and like amazing, and that's where they're at in life. But 2 years ago, I probably would have been spiraling like, why am I not engaged? Why am I not getting married? But I feel like you kind of have to have your stuff shaken up a little bit. Like everybody
Hmm.
leaves college with like this idea, and then shit hits the fan,
Yep.
and you have to kind of roll with the punches and accept like it's not going to be that way. But
Nope.
it's kind of more fun that way.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And you know what? Who didn't have their life planned in like kindergarten? You
Right.
know, like I was going to go to college, I was going to be a teacher, I was going to get married and have like four kids, all before I was like 26. Okay.
Right.
A little different there.
Right.
And you know, another thing that I want to hit, and I say this as somebody who is in a situation that I'm in with my partner,
Hmm.
do not force yourself to meet a milestone that you are not confident in just
Yeah.
because you want to meet that milestone. That's all I'm going to say on that.
Okay. I like that.
Like, listen to your heart.
Hmm.
And when your mind is overactive and you keep overthinking or you're not sure, sit with your body because your body is going to tell you. And what I
Hmm.
mean by that is like, oh, I got goosebumps, but like, sit with the thought, but get out of your head with it. Think about what your heart wants.
Hmm.
And it's, I think, a big thing in your 20s and probably throughout your life if you can't overcome it, but intrusive thoughts and like spiraling. And they are
Hmm.
so truthful, right? They're so real in your head. And it's like, well, if I don't do this, then I'm going to get left behind. If I don't do this, then this isn't going to happen. I
Hmm.
promise you that black and white thinking is going to stunt you and hold you
Hmm.
back. Because guess what? You will be able to meet it, even if it doesn't happen right then and there.
Yeah.
Um, so I think a big thing, there's all this like weird pressure. I say weird because it really doesn't exist. It's all that we put on ourselves. And maybe that comes from
Yeah.
society, but listen to your heart. If I can be cheesy
Mhm.
for a second, listen to your heart. Do not feel compelled to do something because you are trying to meet a milestone.
Yeah.
That is the biggest piece of advice I can give you because I've
Yeah.
seen so many people make mistakes, myself included, because of that.
Hmm.
And then, you know, your life implodes at 33. And you're like, oh shit. Okay. Well,
Right.
there
Yeah.
we go.
Even milestones just as like minuscule as graduating college in 4 years.
Oh, I didn't do that.
So many people don't graduate college in 4 years, but
Nope.
that was me. I was like, I was in college during COVID, so I
Ooh,
got screwed
bless your
anyway.
heart.
But I remember almost quitting. I was like, I'm not going back because I'm not going to graduate in 4 years, and now this is just pointless. And
Hmm.
thank God my dad was like, no way in hell you're doing that. Um, but still, I was like, I have to graduate in 4 years or I'm an idiot.
Hmm.
Which
But
is
you're
like
not.
nobody said you gotta like what?
Yeah.
Even milestones just as little as that, I feel like if you're forcing something, it's never going to work in your favor.
Nope. And even if you don't see that then, it will down the line,
Yeah, exactly. Like
big time.
anything I feel like in my life or from people I've talked to where they've like I pushed so hard for this and I got it, but then like 3 months later, maybe I still had it and it was working, but I was so unhappy. Or
Hmm.
this stuff in my life fell apart because I had that. Like I'm such a firm believer in what's meant for you is going to be yours, whether you believe in God or the universe or whatever higher power, like something out there has your back
I
and
agree.
knows your desires, and like if that's supposed to be in your life, you're going to get it. So you just kind of got to let go
Yes,
I know.
girl, the fact that you are at 25 doing that, like I am 33 learning that lesson right now. At first, I was very much against it, but now I'm like, okay, there's something to trusting the process. Ugh.
Yeah.
If I had that kind of wisdom at 25, I would be the president right now. Well, maybe not, because I don't think I'm old enough, but you know what I mean.
Right, right.
But seriously, that's so wise, but it's so important
Hmm.
because it will.
Hmm.
And one way that I have come, like started to work on this is like, okay, here's the thought. And I'm a control freak. So it's like, okay, well, I want this outcome, but I can't
Hmm.
control this outcome because all these things have to happen. But do I really want this outcome right now? Because XYZ elemental P, this all needs
Right.
to happen first before this can even happen. I just want this because I want my brain to be okay. I want to be happy and
Hmm.
satisfied that, okay, I don't need to worry about that.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. If you can take that and take a beat and actually go through and go, well, I have XYZ elemental P. So I need to take the pressure off of this because, like, honestly, I want this so bad, but this can't happen until all these things happen. If
Right.
you can take that self awareness, you are going to have so much more personal peace. Like,
Yeah.
it is just, you'll be unstoppable. You'll be
Hmm.
unstoppable. And another
Hmm.
big thing I want to say real quick, I say all this to act like I have it all together and like, oh yeah, my thoughts are freaking positive Polly. Like they are just killing it. You know what I mean? No, I definitely like, I almost said relapse, and that was a very dramatic word to use for that. I that did not mean that. I will default back sometimes, or
Yeah.
I will spiral. Like we're
Yeah.
human, and especially
Hmm.
when stuff is really intense, it's okay. Don't beat yourself up. But
Hmm.
Grace, that is impressive that you are already there. Um,
Yeah.
Gen Zs just have it all together. I swear. I have a few Gen Z coworkers, and I'm like, teach me how to be cool. Teach me how to be chill, please.
No, I am so far from chill. I just that like I've always known that, but the hardest part about that is actually doing it because
Hmm.
I'm also a control freak. So I'm like, okay, I know it's coming, but like when? Like I need to like
God,
plan for it. Like, when is it coming?
what's your
Like
sign? I need to know. What
I
is your zodiac sign? Your
I'm an
astrology.
Aquarius.
Okay. Okay. I'm
Yeah.
a Taurus.
Okay.
So you're all about like believe in it will happen. Like that's what the Aquarius is supposed to be about.
It's supposed to be, but I'm over here like, okay, if it happens in this month and then this day, and then I can do this, and then I can work
We are the
backwards.
same
But
way.
but I did it like when I remember there was like I have a harder time with it when it comes to like career and success and money. Like with that, I'm like, I need it now. But I
Mhm.
remember like the past year, like when I was single, finally one day I was like, I really want to be in a relationship and I've been like pushing for it and I've been searching for it and I've been like, why is this not coming? And then finally one day it just like clicked in my brain and I was like, are you happy on your own right now? Like, what are you doing right now? How are you utilizing your time? How are you taking advantage of the time that you have? You never know when you're going to meet you could be in a relationship tomorrow and never be single again. And would you be okay? Like, take this time
Ooh.
and like really enjoy it and make the most of it. You have all the opportunity in the world because you've got nobody else to consider. So go do
Ooh.
all of the things you want right now. And then when it comes, it comes. And I was like, oh my God. And then I stopped worrying about it. And then it came. And I was like, oh.
Grace, I needed that advice, believe it or not. So I'm over here like, wow, girl, that's some wisdom right there. Okay.
Yeah. I heard somebody talking about it on a podcast. I was like, I never really considered that because like I was in a relationship through like college. And when you're young, it's like, well, I don't know. Like we're not really a partner. But at this age, when you get in a relationship, it's more so like, okay, am I going to like be with this person long term? And
Right.
somebody had said that. And I was like, I love being alone, so I'm gonna stop putting pressure on that because it kind of scared me. I was like, oh God, I could meet somebody like tomorrow and then I won't ever get this time again. So
You
I'm
won't.
just
And
gonna
you have a
enjoy
whole
it.
life. You have a
Yeah.
whole life. You have so much life. I think that's another thing in my 20s. I forgot how
Yeah.
much life I still had to live because you have
Mm-hmm.
all this pressure. Because again, everyone is at different stages in their life. Because, like, if you
Mm-hmm.
think mostly through grade school, we're all more or less in the same path. Sure, you got the gifted students, and then you get to high school and you got people going to AP classes and stuff like that. But, like, you're still
Yeah.
going the same schedule, A, B, C, L, M, N, O, P. And then you
Mm-hmm.
get out of, and even college is when you start to break apart. Like people go to college, some people don't. But when you get out
Mm-hmm.
of college, you have nothing else to compare you with other than just people's success. And then if
Mm-hmm.
you don't have that success, then there's no other answer but you're failing.
Right.
So
Yeah.
it's important to keep in mind, yes, you're 25, but you have
Yeah.
decades
Yeah.
to grow in your career and find love. And I don't mean this
Mm-hmm.
just to you, Grace. I'm just saying because you're 25, but
Yeah.
For anyone listening who's like, I got to find my partner tomorrow. I got to find the dream job tomorrow. Chances of you finding your dream job right now, I mean, that would be amazing. I hope. I
Yeah,
mean, I'm
cool.
not saying no, but chances are you're not going to get there. That's
Hmm.
okay. But what about the idea of you get this job at whatever company and then you meet someone who is the connection to the dream job? That's how
Hmm.
the universe works. That's
Yeah.
how the magic works. So
Yeah.
why waste time in your prime? Okay?
Yeah.
Some of the best decade years of your life.
Uh-huh.
Okay? Wasting it on all the things that you can't control that aren't ready to come to you yet,
Right.
you know?
Yeah. And I think like the problem with the 20s in that situation is how closed off we are to the opportunities that are right in our faces because
Mhm.
like social media influencers, that's like 1%. Like
Mhm.
1% of people are doing that at that age, and that's incredible. But where you're at, like maybe you're not in the job you want to be at right now, but you sitting there and being so closed off and so like this with the blinders on because you just hate it and you're trying to get through with it. If you just like opened it up a little bit, you'd be
Mhm.
surprised at like who knows this person or who sees this talent in you, or maybe you can take on this task and that opens this door for you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that was like one of the most important things I learned in this past year with the job that I'm at now. I was like, it's not. But then I like actually started just enjoying it and
Mhm.
opening up and talking to people. And I was like, whoa, like there's some cool people here. Like there's some opportunity for me here. Like, no, I'm not going to be here forever, but this is the next stepping stone. And that's fun.
Exactly. Exactly. Grace, you're so wise. Look at you. Everyone listening, Grace has got the wisdom. What a great 25-year-old to leave a 20 something podcast. I mean, seriously.
Thank you. Doesn't always feel like that.
Well, I mean, here I half the time when I'm spouting off, just love yourself on the inside. I'm like, and I'm having a bad day and I am not loving myself right now. But
Right.
you just gotta fake it till you make it. That's
No,
another
for
thing.
real. Yeah.
Actually, everyone listening, everyone is faking it until they
Mm-hmm.
make it. And even
Mm-hmm.
then they're still faking it. Do you know
Mm-hmm.
all I do every day is just send emails? That's what I do for work. I just send emails every day. I'm like, what am I doing? I'm just sending an email. I wasn't trained to send emails. You just know what to do when you get in the job over
Yeah.
time and you just fake it. And
Yeah.
don't be afraid to ask dumb questions.
Yeah.
Everyone, like you'd be surprised. I was about to say everyone's dumb. That was not what I was about to say. But you'd
I
be
mean,
surprised by some short-sightedness when you get
yeah.
into especially the corporate world. I mean, probably
Mm-hmm.
any job, but all
Mm-hmm.
that to say, everyone's faking it. Even like sometimes the VPs are faking it, the directors are
Mm-hmm.
faking it. Like everyone is faking it until they make it, or at least at some point in their life they did.
Right. Yeah.
I
I mean, nobody, do you ever really know what you're doing? Like it's
no,
everybody's living their life for the first time
correct.
and just kind of winging it day by. There's no playbook. Like
No playbook.
you can't like be good at life by like
Nope.
certain
Nope.
standards.
I keep looking for a playbook, but no, I have not found one yet.
Yeah.
But the closest thing to it is loving yourself. Because
Hmm.
if you love yourself enough, no matter what storm you go through, whatever blessing you come across, you're going to
Hmm.
get through it because you love yourself.
Hmm.
Even if you can't do it on your own, you're going to love yourself enough to ask for help.
Hmm.
Um, because if you don't have you, who has you? You can't depend on other
Yeah.
people to provide that worth.
Hmm.
You have to love yourself. And you can fake that, but I'm going to tell you right now, you're not going to make it because you
No.
can't fake self-love.
No.
You can't.
No. That's a slippery slope.
It is. And let me tell you something, everyone is worth it. It's
Hmm.
crazy to think that we did I don't know if you ever struggle with this, but I didn't have a great relationship with myself growing up in my 20s, especially when I was comparing myself to everybody.
Hmm.
And I think about how cruel I was to myself in my head because like your
Hmm.
thoughts matter. I know we always hear it, but like your thoughts matter, they manifest.
Yeah.
You will see what you are saying.
Yeah.
So start like I mean, if anyone's life is not going right or you are struggling or you're not meeting any kind of you're not getting where you want to go and you feel lost, maybe check in with yourself first.
Yeah.
Like what does Elizabeth want? What does Grace want? Maybe you need
Hmm.
to ask yourself, what is my dream job? Knowing you're probably not going to get right this moment, but
Right.
what can I do? What steps can I take to create that dream job? That's how mine
Exactly.
started. I started researching TED Talks. How do you get a TED Talk? Believe it or not, it's not that difficult because there's so many different types of TED, there's TEDx and this and
Yeah.
this. But that started me down a path that took me to a TED Talk, that took me to a podcast, that took me to a money book, that took me to all these different paths that led me right to where I am right now.
Right.
So you got to check in with yourself. What do
Yeah.
you want? And then convince yourself why you deserve it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's your self-love.
So, as far as like actionable steps people can take or where to start when trying to get there, where do they start? I feel like that's the hardest part for people when it comes to like self-love, especially with the internet, because people are out there just being like, oh, just love yourself. And then they don't say anything else. And it's like, okay, but
Easier said than
how?
done, right?
Right. Like, how do I love myself? Like, how do I get there? Like, in your experience or your opinion, like, how do you even start to scratch the surface?
So, a couple of different things. One, I got very depressed and like I have you ever seen Euphoria, the show Euphoria?
Mm-mm.
So there Zendaya plays the main character and she's like a drug addict in high school and there's like a scene in one of the I think season 2 where she's having a depressive episode. And it
Mm-hmm.
was so incredibly triggering, but I was not taking care of myself. Like I was so depressed. I was so depressed I didn't even want to use the bathroom. Like that's how
Mm-hmm.
depressed I was. And it's so crazy for me to think about me being in that place, but I was numb completely.
Mm-hmm.
And feeling that numbness, and it's different than feeling nothing. Like when I say like I actually felt numb, I don't even know how to explain that. Um, I started like suicidal ideation. I knew that I wasn't suicidal, but I was like, if I'm coping with these thoughts, this cannot be a good path. So I started
Mm-hmm.
talking to my therapist, and I think the first step with your self love is removing the ego, but also telling you, telling yourself that you're worth it. So in this
Mm-hmm.
instance, I wasn't taking care of myself. So I wasn't showering, I wasn't brushing my teeth, I wasn't eating properly. Like I wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
So but I had all this pressure. Like I wasn't good enough. I'm too dumb to do this. I can't get like because even though I was depressed and I like that was causing me for the part of the problems, my mind was like, no, you're capable. You're a grown woman. You should be able to do all this. Like you're not, and just beating myself up.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to take the ego out. And the ego is that self-intrusive thought that was telling me that I wasn't good enough. Like I needed to get over it, get my shit together, and just get up. Get up and get over it.
Yeah.
So I had to get rid of that. And then I also had to humble myself and be like, all right, all these other life things right now taking my energy, I just need to focus on the bare minimum, and that is brushing my teeth. So I looked at my
Mm-hmm.
toothbrush and I'm like, all right, it's going to take me a minute, give or take. I can give myself a minute.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the first step is meeting you where you are at. And
Mm-hmm.
that's what I had to do. And that is the hardest step though,
Yeah.
because you're going to have all these intrusive thoughts. Like for me to just break down the wall in my mind of like, brush your teeth and let's count down from 60 seconds because that's where I was. Okay, looked at
Mm-hmm.
my face wash. Okay, it's going to take a couple minutes. I deserve to wash my face. My body deserves to be taken care of. Even though I don't
Mm-hmm.
want to do this, even though like this seems so incredibly hard and then that thought's like and you're such a loser that you can't even wash your face. I was like, I'm going to give myself 2 minutes. I'm going to wash my face.
Mm-hmm.
And slowly but surely, and when I say slowly, I mean a couple of weeks, but you start to pick it up. I
Yeah.
got better. And that was the biggest thing for me because I had to meet myself where I was.
Mm-hmm.
And after that, I have always had my back. Don't get me wrong, I falter. I mean, I had a freaking mental breakdown yesterday with all the crap that I'm going through right now.
Yeah.
And I vented and I cried and I journaled in my journal. And toward the end of the night, I was like, who the fuck am I? That's right. I'm that girl. And I woke up this morning feeling a lot better. And
Yeah.
sometimes you got to get it out,
Yeah.
but meet yourself where you're at.
Mm-hmm.
And no matter what intrusive thought you have, no matter what bully made you feel small, if you unfortunately have a poor family background and your family made you feel small, I want you to know, I don't even have to know you to know, you are worth it,
Mm-hmm.
whatever it is. So, whoever or whatever made you feel like you weren't, it
Mm-hmm.
is on you to change that narrative. And
Mm-hmm.
it's so hard because intrusive thoughts, as we've said, are like the most truth bearing voice. It's you in your
Yeah.
head. Like, oh, I'm
Yeah.
not gonna second guess me. I'm telling myself I suck. Well, if I think I suck, then of course I suck.
Yeah.
Believe it or not, and I did not believe this And it was one of those things where you keep doing it and you don't see like it was this date that it finally hit me. You just realize, oh shit, I'm doing this and it's actually working.
Mm-hmm.
When you have those intrusive thoughts, I want you to combat them right then and there. Do not, even if everything in your body is like, Elizabeth, you look like shit today. I want you to look in the mirror and be like, I'm beautiful. I'm
Mm-hmm.
alive. People are happy that I'm here.
Mm-hmm.
And your head is going to make you feel crazy. And it's so weird to think about now, especially because I'm here on this other side, that I
Mm-hmm.
would be so harsh on myself. Like, we are our own worst critics. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Life is already hard enough. And then
Yeah.
we put so much pressure on ourselves. And it's like,
Oh
okay,
yeah.
let's just suffer. Like, that's what life's
Yeah.
about. And it's not.
Yeah.
Combat the intrusive thought.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm overwhelmed. Every like the black or white thinking. Okay, because this one domino fell, then I can't put it back together. No, I can.
Mm-hmm.
I can. Because
Yeah.
time and time again, I've proven myself that I have picked myself up. I have put the pieces together. And the
Mm-hmm.
more you recognize those battles within yourself, even at 25, even at 18, even at 27, I
Mm-hmm.
know that you've had battles. Sure, your battles at 18 may be a little different than the battles you're going to hit at 27, but they're
Mm-hmm.
battles. And you remind yourself what you've overcome. You remind yourself why you are worth it. And if you need to make a cheat sheet because your worth is so low right now, of like the 5 reasons why you're the bee's knees, then do it.
Mm-hmm.
Do
Yeah.
it. Do it. And let me tell you, as somebody who has a very overactive mind, I have ADHD, I have anxiety, and I'm a triple Taurus, I'm a control freak. You can master your mind. And coming with that is the grace that there's going to be times when you fall. Like
Mm-hmm.
yesterday, like I said, mental breakdown, min TB, but I
Mm-hmm.
got back up and I get back up so much freaking faster than I ever did before because I remind myself, okay, you know what? I am the bee's knees. You know
Mm-hmm.
what? I had that moment, that breakdown, but I needed that. My body needed to release that. I needed to cry, regulate the nervous system. That doesn't mean I'm less than. It doesn't mean that
Mm-hmm.
this isn't going to work out for me. This doesn't mean that I'm not going to figure all this out because who am I going to bet on? I will bet on me. And if
Yeah.
you keep telling yourself that and you keep reminding yourself why you matter and why your dreams matter, why
Mm-hmm.
your ambition matters, why your motivation, your hope, all of it matters, it will
Mm-hmm.
get easier.
Mm-hmm.
But meet yourself where you're at and just keep telling you, even though you don't believe it, you do matter and you are worth it.
Yeah.
And I mean, I know that sounds so simple, but that is the best advice I can give you. It is
Yeah.
constant effort and
It
do it.
is.
Do it. Because if you think
Yeah.
about it, think about how quick an intrusive thought can come. Think about how quick you can combat that. So
Mm-hmm.
just do it real quick. Who cares? You're in your head. No one knows you're talking to yourself. Like, just let
Right.
it, like, and also there's nothing wrong with talking with yourself. So,
Yeah. Oh my God, I talk to myself all the time.
oh my God, all the time. I'm a
All-
walking cartoon character. That's what I like to say. But
I know. Anytime I have to like figure something out in the car, I'll just like I hope people think I'm on the phone, but really I'm just talking to myself.
seriously though, but you know what? Entertain. It's
Yeah.
quite an adventure looking at me. Either I'm dancing or I'm talking or I'm
Yeah.
singing. Either
Yeah.
way, it's a show. So
Yeah. Something's going on. No, I like what you said about meeting yourself where you're at in that moment. I feel like something that I always like struggled with earlier, like this past year, especially that I had to like figure that out exactly what you said. Was like, I was like super when I was in college, I was like I loved that version of myself. Like I'm in the fitness and health industry,
oh
which is
cool.
like a beast of its in and of itself as well when it comes to comparison and stuff. So like
Yeah.
age 22, I'm like best shape of my life, best time of my life, everything's great. And then I'm like 24 and my life is completely different. So no wonder I'm not the same at 22. Then at 24, I'm like, well, I don't look like that girl anymore. And I don't do the things that girl does anymore. So I just need to go back to do exactly what she did. And then 6 months later, I'm like, well, this isn't working. Why not? Well, because I wasn't meeting myself where I was at. Like you said, like that was such an aha moment for me because I never thought about it that way. I mean, I eventually figured it out. I was like, well, you're not 22 anymore. So maybe stop trying to be 22 and like figure out what works for 24-year-old you.
Right.
But I like that because even if like you were way up here and you felt so great at a certain age, then maybe you fell, or even day to day, like we're not ever the same percentage that we are each day. Like it's going
No.
to ebb and flow. And if you can only give 50% one day and you give all of that 50%, then you gave it your all. Even
Yeah.
if yesterday you had 100 and you gave 100.
And that's okay.
Yeah.
Because tomorrow you might give it 100. Tomorrow you may give it 75.
Mm-hmm.
Tomorrow you may be 20%. Guess what? That's okay.
Mm-hmm.
What you said
Yeah.
earlier at the beginning of the episode or toward the beginning, like what will find me will find me. What's meant for me will always like find me. And
Yeah.
if you can keep that kind of thought, that intention,
Mm-hmm.
I think you will find so much peace.
Yeah.
Because like we said, you're not always going to be 100%. So we already know the path isn't going to be easy. There's going to
No.
be speed bumps, there's going to be curveballs, then there's going to
Yeah.
be freaking timeline shifts, and then call me when you want to talk cuz I'm
Right.
currently in that myself and I'm like, "Whoa, I look like I'm looking at myself in third person. It's fine."
Right. Right.
But it will get easier.
Mm-hmm.
Cuz your 20s, I think we put so much additional pressure and suffering on ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And hopefully like with y'all's generation and as we get and as more come up, like it's less of that, you know, like
Yeah.
we're all just social media is like a part of just our, I don't want to say DNA, but it's not a comparison model anymore. It's just a part of the thing. It's just,
Yeah.
you know, just a thing.
Yeah.
um but life is already hard enough,
Mm-hmm.
and it's gonna be harder if you don't believe in yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. I think there's definitely a shift coming. I've been feeling with the 20s and losing that strict timeline and the pressure of like having
Mm-hmm.
to be quote unquote successful. And I had this realization literally you know when you're like doing something and you're kind of dissociating and then you're like you fully understand just like the randomest thing in your
Oh
head.
yeah.
Like I was like brushing my
Yeah,
teeth last night and I was like, whoa, like we only get to live this life once. Like that's it. And I was like,
seriously.
wait, I'll never be in my 20s with my two roommates brushing my teeth on a Tuesday night ever again. And I was like, wait, but that's so cool.
It
And that
is.
like kind of takes the pressure off because I'm
It
like, this is
does.
so fun in like your 20s. And I don't know about like about your 30s, maybe that too, because there really is no timeline on like marriage and family and kids or whatever. But in your 20s, it's just like I get to live with my girlfriends and this like I get to be on my own and it's so exciting and fun and
It
like
is.
we just got to stop worrying so much about everything. Like
We do.
I want to be successful and I want to build this brand and make a lot of money and like everybody does, but like I can enjoy the process too while it's happening because I'll
Exactly.
never be
Oh,
here again.
so many goosebumps. Yes, Grace. And you will get there. I mean,
Yeah.
I did this in 2022. And I just took like a how many month hiatus because of my life stuff going on. I was like, I can't be my authentic self. So why am I going to show up right now? I got too much
Right.
stuff going on. I'm still not at that success level yet, but I still believe in my dream. I
Hmm.
absolutely. And that's one
Hmm.
thing, you know, you will get there. Absolutely. And one thing you were talking about, like, I only get this once, and that
Hmm.
perspective. So beautiful, chef's kiss. I want to I add more to that. And my intention behind this is for you to like think bigger. Like just because we're small, but we can be big.
Hmm.
So we're here for a blip. Like our existence, like when you think about, not to get too like, you know, I don't know, philosophical, but here we go. How old is Earth? Billions and billions of years. Like when I think
Hmm.
about dinosaurs, my brain cannot compute hundreds of millions of years ago. I'm like,
No.
wait, I just don't get it. So billions of years. And we're here for, let's say 90 years. I know that's like a higher end, but we're going to be optimistic here.
Yeah.
90 compared to billions. That is a blip. And on top of that blip, we are on this little bitty blue rock floating in this infinite universe.
Hmm.
I don't say that to make you think your problems are small. I say that to say, like, they are small, but
Hmm.
because they're small, we can live big. So, whatever problem you run into, you can overcome it because the
Hmm.
fact that we are getting to exist on this microscopic blue rock in this infinite, huge ass universe is insane.
Yeah.
The fact that you are living right now, we are on a Zoom call having a recorded podcast episode is insane.
Yeah, it is.
And it's incredible if you really let yourself think about it like that. So
Hmm.
get existential, get bigger than yourself.
Yeah.
Meet yourself where you're at and remind yourself that you are a part of something bigger and greater,
Mm-hmm.
like the collective energy if you really want to get there. But
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I believe in what I call the magic of the universe. And I have really seen it full unfold and seen it firsthand because of my self-love. And also part
Mm-hmm.
of that is, okay, I believe in myself to go out here and do the thing that I'm trying to do and set the intention to do the thing I'm trying to do.
Mm-hmm.
You meet people, you come across people. That's the magic. There is no solid path. It's just believing in yourself and the path appears.
Mm-hmm.
And the more you believe that, the more comfortable you get with it. And then you're like, holy shit, my life is amazing. And then when
Mm-hmm.
life hands you a super sour melon, you can still handle it because you know you're going to bounce back. No matter what
Right.
shit sandwich you're handed, you're going to be fine
Right.
because you've made it this far. And
Yeah.
it's an ever evolving, ever growing, never ending, like, I think, love sesh with yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And it should be something that you're always pursuing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's your choice. Like
Mhm.
the way that you perceive all of that, like you said, as like shit gets thrown your way, you get to choose. Are you gonna look at it negatively and just crumble and wallow, or are you gonna look at it as another opportunity and what can I learn from this and where do I go from this and how do I grow from this, and then take that path and then just keep enjoying it. Shit's gonna
Exactly.
happen regardless. Like,
Mhm.
it's so funny because I like earlier today recorded an episode, a solo episode that I do one every year when I for my birthday, and I was recording one for 25, and this past year was kind of whack, and I was talking about that. I was like, so much good was happening over here and so much shit was happening over here, and I was in the middle, like, am I happy, am I sad, what do I do, where do I go? But then I realized, like, well, I you can be both at once. Like, you don't
Mhm.
have to pick. Like, I don't need to be wallowing. I can be pursuing these and also be dealing with this and then just enjoy it in the middle, because it's just going to keep happening regardless. Like,
Exactly.
things are going so well over here, and I'm like, heck yeah, riding the wave, and then boom, this happens. I'm like, what? And then boom, this happens. I'm like, wait a second, and then another thing happens, and I'm like, all right, well, it's just going to keep happening, so
Mhm.
I just got to keep going.
Yep. And you adapt. You
Mm-hmm.
adapt. So you're like, okay, this keeps happening. I'm not going to let it take me down. I'm going to
Yeah.
maneuver and figure out how do I keep pursuing this, but I still keep dealing with the shit that hits me. And
Right.
then sometimes, like, I know I'm in a very different situation than probably most of your listeners right now, but, or maybe not, because back when I was your age, there was people getting divorced too. But
Yeah.
I was going to say, sometimes major life things happen and you can't do the things as much as you'd like. There are
Mm-hmm.
seasons where you have to slow down. For me,
Mm-hmm.
like with the podcast, the past few months since like what, October, I was on a hiatus and I
Mm-hmm.
did it just for myself. I didn't say anything. And I felt so much anxiety at first of like, oh my gosh, what are people going to think? I just quit. Like I Irish goodbye to everybody. That's what I kept saying to myself.
Yeah.
But I had to do what I had to do to survive.
Mm-hmm.
And then I reminded myself, why do I think because I need to focus on me and what's going on in my life right now takes away all my dreams? That's not fair. That's so
Mm-hmm.
unfair to me. So rather than spiraling because I had to Irish goodbye the podcast for a moment,
Yeah.
I just said, all right, this is okay because I know me. I'm going to come back because I know my heart and
Right.
I know my dreams. I know my intention behind this. I need to go handle my life stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I've slowly started to dabble back into it. I'm going every 2 weeks and they're not crazy long episodes. I'm not talking
Mm-hmm.
about a bunch of major life stuff right now because I'm still in the motion,
Mm-hmm.
but you adapt, you handle it.
Mm-hmm.
You like, if I would have pushed myself to try and do my podcast, especially in the beginning of all of that,
Mm-hmm. Oh
I don't,
yeah.
I would have lost myself because I would have been
Yeah.
trying to be someone that I wasn't in this season.
Mm-hmm.
So you meet yourself where you're at, and that also means in the seasons of life.
Yeah.
Sometimes you got to adjust, and that doesn't mean it's not going to happen. It doesn't mean
Mm-hmm.
you're a loser. It doesn't mean anything negative that your brain can muster and create in your head.
Right.
It just means, oh, I got to focus on this right now, but this will
Mm-hmm.
come back.
Yeah. Yeah, there's that balance. You have to make sure that you fall within that fine line of, like, make sure that that doesn't take you under, but also don't shove it down, and just keep your head down and moving forward so that you don't lose out in quotations on anything, because then that just like pushes further and further, stuff builds up more and more, and then it breaks to the point where you actually just end up on the other end where it pushed you so far in that you can't get out.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And even if that does happen, don't worry, you can still get out. It might be a little bit
Right.
harder.
Right.
You
You're
may get
never
depressed as
stuck.
hell and then be like, do I need to brush my teeth? I can't. But
Right.
hey, if you hit that rock bottom, there is still a way up. I can promise
Mm-hmm.
you.
Mm-hmm.
uh,
Yeah.
but
That's like the number one thing is like nothing is final except death. Like
exactly.
you're not stuck no matter how far deep you feel in, like you have a choice to get
Hmm.
out of it. And it might be really hard. And you're probably gonna have to ask for help, which is not a weakness, it's a strength. But you're never stuck in any situation.
No,
Nothing is final like that.
that's so wise. You're such a wise 25-year-old
Thank
man.
you.
If I, like I said, if I had your wisdom at 25, unstoppable. But no, exactly. To your
Yeah.
point, exactly.
Mhm. Yeah. Um,
Mm.
oh my gosh. Okay, I feel like we got like a hype episode going on.
Seriously, I'm like, this is like, we should be writing a book about this, like
Very
how to love
empowering.
yourself.
Yeah. So I guess to like tie it all together and wrap it up, so that this episode doesn't go for like 2 hours because I could always go that long.
We'll have
I'd
part two
like
coming soon.
I would like time limit myself. I guess is there anything that you want to leave people with or something that you feel is really important that you've learned or a piece of advice or anything that kind of like really resonates with you that helps you get through the craziness or the 20s or the in between?
Oh, I got chill bumps. Okay, a couple of things.
Yeah.
This whole episode has been about self-love, basically. And
Hmm.
I want to stress this again. The relationship you have with yourself is the most important one you will ever have in your life. I am not saying you're not going to love your children. I'm not saying you're not going to love your partner. You're going to love your family, but you can only be the best version for them if you love yourself.
Yeah.
Prioritize that relationship. If you have a
Hmm.
shitty inner narrative, if you have poor self worth, you don't deserve to have that. You deserve to love yourself because you are worthy of love.
Hmm.
If you're looking for love, you're looking for love, you're looking for a partner. If you don't love yourself, how is someone else going to love you?
Hmm.
Love you right. Because we don't want abusive, toxic relationships either.
No.
So, loving yourself is the most important thing you can do.
Hmm.
And I said this earlier, that doesn't mean that you're going to do everything on your own. No,
Hmm.
loving yourself means you meet yourself where you're at. So when you're depressed and you can't brush your teeth, you love yourself enough to ask your therapist, hey, something's not working and I don't want to kill myself. So help me.
Yeah. Yeah.
So love yourself above all else. A quote that I have written on my whiteboard that is so important. And it was something that I kept with me, especially when I started the podcast and I was terrified to put myself out there. I was like, oh, who's going to listen to this? Oh my God, people from high school. Leap and the net will appear.
Hmm.
So jump into the void and trust that you are going to land. You're going to
Yeah.
land, that net's going to catch you. And it's
Mhm.
scary, especially as us control freaks, Grace and I, as we can say, like we like control, we like plans.
We do.
And Grace, I don't know if you've gotten to this point yet, but I can say as a former super control freak,
Hmm.
I now am excited by the void.
Yeah.
I am seduced by the unknown in a way. I
Hmm.
am not afraid of it. I am running into it because you know what's in the void? Love, change, growth, transformation.
Hmm.
It is life. And so I think the more comfortable you can get with that, which
Hmm.
also, believe it or not, is tied to your self love because it all goes back to that.
Yeah.
You are going to have the keys to the kingdom. You're going to
Hmm.
learn how to actually handle and manifest the magic of the universe. Is it like Harry Potter? No. I mean, I wish, but no. It's like
Right.
a weird energetic thing you can't quite see, but it's a magic.
Hmm.
And so prioritize that relationship,
Hmm.
grow comfortable with the void because the
Hmm.
void is going to lead you to all your dreams.
Yeah.
You know, you don't have a partner, you want to be married. Well, the void technically is the partner. You haven't met them yet, but they're out there somewhere. And
Right.
if you start kind of changing your thinking like that, okay, well, I don't have the dream job yet. Think about what the dream job is. Think about where it could go to. It's out there somewhere. The partner's out there. The house is out there. All of the things.
Hmm.
And, you know, it doesn't help to read a good self-help book here or there. Don't be afraid to do that.
Yeah.
Back in my 20s when I was like, I'm going to start the podcast, but I'm too depressed to do it. Blah, blah, blah. I would see things like, well, Oprah got her start at 36. This person got their start at 40. Those kind of
Yeah.
things help.
Yeah,
Like
they
open
do.
your bubble up. Like, okay, you're struggling. If you, especially if you think you're the only one in your friend group or your social circle that's struggling, then branch out. Go
Right.
read. Go on Threads. Go look at some, like, I don't know, try something different
Yeah.
because it will help you.
Yeah.
And just don't forget that you're worth it. And I
Got
mean
it.
that. Even if
Yeah.
someone made you feel like you're not worth it, that is a projection of them. Ooh, actually, now that I say that, one last piece of advice. Every single person, and unfortunately, I know sometimes those are people that we're family members with, or we're close with, friends, best friends, whatever. If
Hmm.
they make you feel negative, they make you feel low, that's a projection of them.
Yeah.
And I know this is a lot easier said than done, but you cannot internalize that.
Hmm.
So self love helps with that too. So
Yeah.
anyone making you feel small, that's a projection on them, honey. Oh, I hope you have a good day. I'm sorry for this. I'm sorry. I hope you're okay. Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Awesome.
So
I think that, yeah, mic drop. I got wrap it up. That was awesome.
this has been a great
um,
episode.
this has been so amazing. Where can people find you, follow you, listen to your podcast?
Thank you. So the In Between with Elizabeth Cheney, you can find it on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, all those things.
Okay.
You can follow me on Instagram. My personal is Elizabeth Cheney _, which is where I post mostly. So if you want to keep up with my life and all my self-love, dribble drabble, that's where you can find it. And then
Love it.
in dot between pod is my podcast Instagram.
Okay.
I do have TikTok, the In Between podcast, and then the YouTube handle is the In Between podcast as well. So hit me
Awesome.
up and let's part 2. You come on my podcast, we'll talk about, the 20s
Perfect.
and 30s there. Cause like I said, you're a wise 25-year-old, which
Thank
I
you.
feel so old saying that. I'm like, this whippersnapper. God.
Thank you.
I'm cracking up.
Awesome. Yeah, I'll put all of that in the show notes so people can find you and check out your podcast. But thank you so much. This was so fun. I really
Absolutely.
enjoyed this conversation. I thought it
Me
was really
too.
good.